Did the Titans make the wrong choice picking Cam Ward at number 1 overall? No, they did not, and we're going to talk about why today. Plus, we're reacting to the end of the trade deadline. The Titans only made one move there in the final hours, shipping off Draymond Jones. We're going to talk about all of it. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo, bi-week edition of the Music City Audible podcast. How's it going, Justin?
Well, I'm doing well. We're here to cover a couple of things, leftover trade deadline stuff. Not going to spend a lot of time on that. We've got to hand out our grade to Cam Ward. We didn't do that from Sunday's game against the Chargers. And just talk a little structural stuff regarding him. You teased at the beginning. Did they make a mistake taking him at number 1 overall? We're going to discuss all of these things. I guess I'll kick us off with the trade deadline because, again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. We covered it to death over the last couple of days. We went on. We did a live stream yesterday. In the hours leading up, talked about we'll come back for a second live stream if the Titans make a deal. Well, they didn't make another deal, right? They did not trade Jeffrey Simmons or T'Vondre Sweat or Tony Pollard or Calvin Ridley or Arden Key or Chig. Any of the 6 players who were really rumored to potentially be leftover candidates. I'll keep my thoughts brief because it's a shame they couldn't get rid of some of those guys for draft capital. I mean, you look at your contenders for the number 1 pick. I'm not saying you got to go full-blown New York Jets and tear the whole house down for 5 picks in the next 2 drafts, but you even look at a team like the New Orleans Saints that got a 4th and a 6th for Rashid Shaheed. Like, I would have taken that for Calvin Ridley. I would have taken a 6th, 5th swap for Chig. I would have taken probably a 6th for Pollard. I would have taken a UDFA 7 swap for Arden Key. Like, but look, I would have taken any of those things, but I don't want to sit here and, just kind of destroy the Titans because at the end of the day, it takes 2 to tango. And I think the Roger McCreary deal, a 6-5 swap indicates they were willing to sell pretty low on some of these guys, especially the ones on expiring deals. They didn't get offers they liked. And that tells me, I don't think their asking price was too high. It just, Paul Kuharsky tweeted out, what makes you think all these other teams want the Titans players? Like, I get it. They're maybe the worst team in the NFL. So I'm not shocked that the phone wasn't ringing off the hook. Yeah, I thought they could get something for maybe Pollard and Chig. But again, the indication is they couldn't because I think they would have sold pretty low on those guys. Albert Breer reported a couple of days ago, I think it got lost in one of his mailbags, the Titans' asking price for Arden Key is incredibly fair. Like he's been hurt. He hasn't been productive. Conditional 7th wouldn't shock me, right? So ultimately it takes 2 to tango. It's a shame, but, they didn't get the offers that they probably hoped they could.
Yeah, this isn't the Jets trying to deal Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson and getting offered 3rd and 4th round picks. But no, we need a 2nd or a 3rd rounder or we're not moving those guys. Also, Jermaine Johnson is better than an edge the Titans have. He's younger and better than Arden Key. Breece Hall is younger and better than Tony Pollard. So, the fact that they want to keep those guys, whatever. I mean, I'm not, super worked up over the fact that they didn't make any more trades. And I think that the trades they did make are going to help them. And then, Chigakonkwo, Arden Key, those guys are on expiring deals. But Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley are not. They're under contract next year. And whether or not the Titans move on from them for salary cap reasons or just for roster turnover reasons, they at least now have an off season where they can look at the free agent market. They can really, they'll know where they'll be picking in the draft. They can assess what they want to do and how they want to attack the running back and receiver positions and decide if they want to keep Pollard and Ridley. They can still try to trade them before April's draft. I mean, we're months away from April's draft. And if they want to keep them, then they can keep them. And in the short term, for the rest of this season, it does help Cam Ward to have those 2 guys around specifically. So
absolutely. And if I could quickly add, if you don't mind, because you bring up a good point there, I want to bring up a point. If they're cutting Calvin Ridley, he's under contract for the next 2 seasons, remember. Yeah. Pollard's only got 1 year left. Ridley's got 2. If they're cutting Calvin Ridley, it's more than likely a post-June decision, right? Of course, you do it pre-June and you designate it post-June. But the point is, you can go into the draft, see what you do at wide receiver, right? do they get one at the top of the second round? Do they trade back and take one in the first round still? Like, I don't think they're taking one top 3. But if they trade back to 8th or 9th, like that could be a receiver at 8th or 9th. You could see what happens in the draft at wide receiver and at running back, but especially at receiver, and then cut those guys after you know that you feel you've got good cover coming out of it. Remember, when they signed Van Jefferson, this is the reverse of it, but they signed Van Jefferson before the draft, right? Then they went out and drafted Alec Iomanner and Chimere Dike and probably liked where they were at from a receiver standpoint after it. But you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So they've got time to make those decisions, and they could make them after the draft.
And Jordan Schultz reported that the Titans view T'Vondre Sweat, despite significant league-wide interest, the Titans view T'Vondre Sweat as a young, ascending cornerstone, a key part of their future plans, and have made it clear they are not looking to move him. So all the speculation about T'Vondre Sweat and the locker room culture and, me talking about him half-assing warm-ups because Paul Kuharsky talked about him half-assing warm-ups a few days ago, all of that, not true. And we're going to take the word of Jordan Schultz here and the actions of the Titans who did not deal T'Vondre Sweat. And somebody told Jordan Schultz that there's league-wide interest. That's, he's talking to multiple executives or sources with different teams who are all saying, yeah, we tried to get Sweat. Titans aren't moving him. Like, this is how they feel about T'Vondre Sweat. I think ultimately keeping that Sweat-Simmons duo in the middle is good for this team. Like, those were the guys that could have got you the best return in terms of draft capital. But they're also like, it's the mystery boxes could be a boat. Family Guy meme all over again that gets used during this time of year a significant amount. But yeah,
you've seen this pass rush come alive in recent weeks, right? Like, and that's without Simmons. You pair the two of them together, you draft an edge early. Maybe you bring back a Sebastian Joseph Day who's on an expiring deal. You bring back a James Lynch who I really like as a depth player. Like, you bring those guys back, you draft an early edge, you might sign one in free agency, you get Femi back. All of a sudden, you might have a very formidable front four, next offseason. Next season.
Yeah, exactly. And you just need those guys to stay healthy, dang it. That wasn't the only report. We talked yesterday about the Mike Giardi report that he was, had been told that conversations might have been had that Amy Adams Strunk was vetoing trades to the Patriots. Well, it has, on our live stream yesterday, I feel smart now. I said, seems like a completely speculative. I don't believe this. This is far-fetched to me, hard for me to believe it, hard to buy. Easton Freeze reports that this did not happen. Amy Adams Strunk did not veto these trades. Paul Kuharsky reported that also before Easton. He said he didn't think that this was happening. And then this morning, doubled down, super confirmed, this did not happen. There are plenty of reasons, Paul said, to criticize Amy Adams Strunk. We don't need to make up new ones that don't exist just for the sake of criticizing her. And a lot of Titans fans, media ran with this rumor yesterday just to take their, take it out on Amy Adams Strunk for the way the team has performed the last couple seasons, and completely baseless. We don't need to spend any more time on it. You can, give your reaction to the fact that it's clearly not true, and let's just all move on and pretend like this report never happened because it's kind of BS.
Well, I'm glad it's baseless. I said on the live stream, I don't want to say I'll own it because I didn't say that I believed it. I just said knowing how she operates, it feels like something that could be within the realm of possibility. We know she's vetoed trades in the past for different reasons, but we know she's meddled in those decisions. And she's certainly meddled when it comes to hiring head coaches and firing them and GMs and firing and all that. So she's an occasional meddler, but I'm ultimately glad this is baseless because what I want her to do is what I want every good owner to do. Hire good people to run the team and let them do their job. Let Mike Borgonzi make that decision. Let Chad Brinker maybe have a little input, but let Mike Borgonzi make those decisions. And I'm glad that that's apparently what she is doing here.
Yep. So, all right, that will cover our conversation there. Coming up, we're going to talk about, did the Titans make the wrong decision drafting Cam Ward number 1 overall? Should they have taken Jackson Dart? Should they have traded the pick? Should they have taken Abdul Carter? We're going to discuss. But first, a word from Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. Sinkers Beverages has a super knowledgeable staff that'll be proud to help you if you're planning a large party, if you got a themed event, you want to make themed drinks, or any other occasion that comes to mind. Sinkers Beverages is there to help. You can join the Sinkers exclusive members club for free, and members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive access to barrel releases and events, plus more. And Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats. We are a proud Sinkers Beverages community here at the Music City Audible. We appreciate all you guys for telling Sinkers Beverages that the Music City Audible sent you. And while we're here, let's mention that we are trying to hit a new subscriber goal. Justin, I believe you mentioned this yesterday. We need you guys to smash that like button on this video, but more importantly, mash that subscribe button on our channel if you're just tuning in for the first time, or if you've been tuning in, here and there over the last few weeks, and you're like, I wonder what these guys are all about. Well, if you've seen us and if you keep coming back to the show, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for?
We'd love to get to 5,500 subscribers. That would be phenomenal. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As we get into the Cam Ward section of this conversation, a juicy topic you cooked up today, Graver. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, well, I've been seeing a lot of chatter on the Twitter timeline about, did you get tagged in this post? That somebody tagged a whole bunch of Titans people in a post asking if the draft was redrafted right now in early November, would Jackson Dart be the first overall pick?
And didn't Hayden Winks, one of your buddies from Underdog,
yes,
didn't he say Jackson Dart would go number one in a redraft?
He did say that, yeah. So that is sort of where this all comes from. And look, we talked about this a little bit. You look at production. You look at the Jackson Dart came onto the scene. He was drafted in the end of the first round, right, and didn't start the beginning of the season the way Cam Ward started. So first of all, the perception around what Jackson Dart is and can do and has done is completely different when he comes in and replaces a quarterback that was leading a struggling offense, right? And then the Giants offense has a couple of really good weeks before Cam Scatterbo gets hurt. I don't know how much that really affects Tyrone Tracy hasn't played particularly well. But the point is, Jackson Dart electrifies the offense, right? Especially with his legs, right? And I talked about this yesterday. What does it mean when a rookie quarterback elevates the offense? Well, almost every time a rookie quarterback is elevating the players around him, it's because he is making stuff happen with his legs, and it's not a sustainable long-term way to win in the NFL unless you are Lamar Jackson. And even Jaden Daniels, I'm praying for his health and recovery because I love watching Jaden Daniels play. But the kind of guy who comes in and electrifies the league with his legs, ultimately, you have to win from the pocket. I'm not trying to take away from Jaden Daniels, but this is about Jackson Dart, Jackson Dart dove headfirst, launched himself headfirst into an opposing player's helmet earlier this season. This is not sustainable.
Post, you probably don't even know this. The New York Post has already written an article on his failure to protect himself. He has made, it could be more, but at minimum, he has made 3 trips into the medical blue tent already this year. And he is continuously running over defenders and taking and absorbing punishment because he's a passionate guy. And you love the way that injects energy into the rest of your offense and they rally around you. He's passionate. He's physical. He loves winning. He hates losing. All good signs for the Jackson Dart makeup. But I do think he's got to learn how to protect himself a little bit. And his current play style, I don't think is sustainable. And it is a little concerning.
And on the other hand, his production has not been I don't know what all the hype around Jackson Dart's statistical production has really been. If you take away the rushing, which granted, the rushing has added a lot, and he's averaging, he's 4 games of over 50 yards rushing. He has 5 rushing touchdowns in his 6 starts. So yes, that is impressive and that's good stuff. Again, what you just said, what I just said, not really the sustainable way to win long-term in the NFL, not necessarily good for his personal development, unless he turns into Josh Allen, which maybe he will, but unless you can do it at that level and stay healthy, this doesn't really make that big of a long-term impact. Passing yardage, here's his passing yards totals, Justin. 111, 202, 195, 283 in the Denver game that he blew the lead with an interception late in that game. And then drove down to take the lead back, helped out by 30 yards of penalties that he had nothing to do with, and a lot of catch and run stuff. 193, 191. He has 4 games under 200 yards. He doesn't have a 300-yard game. Now, the passing touchdowns. Yes, he has 10 passing touchdowns, and that is pretty impressive. A lot of those are Theo Johnson catching a 10-yard pass and rumbling to the end zone, or Cam Scatterbo doing the same thing. Now, I'm not trying to take everything away from him.
Yeah,
the
I think
other
we're
side
taking
of this,
a little too much away.
Maybe I'm taking a little too much away, but I do have a point that I'm going to get to here in a second. And this is not even to mention or bring up the fact that he's being coached by Brian Daboll, who has and Mike Kafka, who has an offensive system that is really designed around his strengths and allowing him to complete 72% of his passes against San Francisco. Never mind that he completed 45% of his passes against Denver. Like, it's not been a super impressive 6-game sample size if you take out the rushing stats.
That's the big difference to me, the last point that you made. I'll admit that Jackson Dart's probably been better than I thought he was going to be. And maybe the gap between him and Cam Ward is smaller than we initially thought that it would be. But I think the world of Brian Daboll as a head coach. And we've talked about Mike Kafka on this show potentially being a Titans head coaching candidate. And I think he's going to get interviewed somewhere this offseason because of the way Jackson Dart is playing. Might be in Tennessee. He might get hired somewhere.
Yeah.
Compared to Cam Ward, who's on his second play caller of the year, who we do not think has been good in Bo Hardegree, who's on his second head coach of the year in Mike McCoy, who we do not think has been good. The situation is just so different. And let's not forget, the New York Giants wanted Cam Ward. Like they kind of lucked into Jackson Dart. They tried trading the farm up to number 1. And look, maybe that means little now. Maybe 3 years from now, I'm not saying this, but maybe 3 years from now we say, damn, the Giants really lucked out. Like, that happens in the National Football League. Maybe Jackson Dart will eventually prove to be a better decision. I don't know. But it's way too early to say that right now. I think their situations are so incredibly different. I wish Cam Ward was being coached by Brian Daboll right now.
Same. And I wish he was in that system. And I would honestly, outside of the Titans rookies, the 3 rookies that have been playing a lot on offense, I would trade the Giants team around Jackson Dart for, I would trade what Cam Ward has around him, maybe not offensive line, but in terms of playmakers in general, for what
But credit to Dart for losing Malik Neighbors and still looking pretty good, right? Because that was a huge blow. And no one thinks that receiving core right now is electric with, I know he's a tight end, but Theo Johnson, and I think Darius Slayton is still there, and Wendell Robinson. Like, certainly not an incredible core. And then losing Cam Scatabo is going to add another element to this evaluation because he was helping out so much. And now with him going down, it adds another layer to the challenge that Jackson Dart is facing. But I would still agree that right now, even without Malik Neighbors, the Giants' core is probably a little bit better than the Titans' core. And if they had Malik Neighbors, then it's night and day better. But they don't.
Yeah. And just because we're on the topic, I'm going to say Abdul Carter, also a Giants player, has 32 pressures this season, according to PFF. That's 17th most in the league. That's pretty good for a rookie. He has 1 sack. So it's not like
been able to convert those pressures into sacks yet. You'd like to think it's coming at some point because, just the law of averages. But he's been very good. But certainly, I don't view the Titans' decision as they should have taken Abdul Carter at number 1. I think it was Easton on Twitter who responded to that question. That it was our pal Karsten Ferguson, I think it was, who tagged everyone, said, maybe I'm taking the trade back and Abdul Carter. I think when Titans, when Easton, I can't speak for Easton, but when he says that, I don't necessarily think it's an indictment on the way Cam Ward is playing. I think, and this is a very fair discussion. Maybe we won't get into it today. I mean, we're kind of into it, but I'd like to think what Easton means by that, and you know where I'm going, is maybe I would have taken the trade back, not because I don't like Cam Ward, but because this team is so bad and dysfunctional right now that maybe they weren't ready to draft a quarterback at number 1. And that's a good conversation that should happen more every year. My pal Keith Sanchez over at the Draft Network, director of our scouting, says all the time that teams should not take quarterbacks when they're not ready to take a quarterback, but they always take the quarterback anyway. And sometimes you end up with Sam Darnold in New York or Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, where you ruin a guy and then he goes on to play better elsewhere. Because once he gets away from the dysfunction and he's got some experience under his belt, he still kind of rises from the ashes. Hopefully that's not what's going to happen here in Tennessee. But I think the Titans shouldn't take Cam Ward number 1 redraft discussion. it shouldn't be based around how Cam Ward is playing. Some of our listeners, based on the comments you leave, you believe that because you think he's been terrible and he's headed for a bust. I don't think that's the part of the conversation that's relevant. I think it's fair to have the maybe they are not ready for a quarterback discussion based on what we've seen this year, how terrible they are and how dysfunctional ownership is and head coaches and play callers and blah, 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 blah. But for me, I'm not there because of how Cam Ward is performing on the field.
Yeah, and I can understand the argument there, but I still believe that if you think that quarterback is special and is going to be a franchise quarterback, and you're willing to actually be patient with him as he comes on and develops, knowing that the front office knew that there was a decent chance this coaching staff wouldn't survive to Cam Ward's second season, even if they survived this full season, which they're barely, most of them are barely going to cling on to till the end of the season. Like, if you know all that and you're still that convicted by the quarterback, I think that speaks a lot to Cam Ward. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm still extremely confident in Cam Ward, but I think we should grade him first. Did you have something else?
Yeah. Before we do that, I want to quickly add, because I think I know you agree, but you take the quarterback if you think he's special. And I know a lot of our listeners, viewers will disagree. I haven't seen anything on the field to change my mind. I know that he's not playing great. I know that he's struggling, but I remain convicted in my belief that this amateur level coaching staff and this terrible supporting cast is to blame for the on-field struggles that Cam Ward is experiencing, for the offense struggling as a whole. So no, I have not changed my mind on that front.
And on that front, let's get to Cam Ward's grade, because this one was tough for me, Justin, because it's hard to grade for things that didn't happen, that you didn't necessarily see an opportunity for more yardage or lead a touchdown drive or whatever. Like, it wasn't like those opportunities were super prevalent outside of the 3rd and 16 miss to Van Jefferson that we've talked about already ad nauseum. So it's like, yeah, the offense needs to be better, and Cam Ward is the leader of the offense, so he's to blame. But it's like, there weren't that many negative plays that Cam Ward made in this game. There weren't that many big-time positive plays that he made in this game either. So I think we settled, for sort of that reason, on a C grade for Cam Ward. That is a slight downgrade from where he was the last couple of weeks. Still an upgrade over the Raiders game. Still a little better than where he was at the Texans game, but not exactly the game that we wanted to see from Cam Ward. Not exactly like continuing the upward trend, but something, I guess, I don't know. It's a rookie in his 9th game. You can live with that performance.
I think a lot of the viewers are going to think that we were not harsh enough. I think we'll get a lot of comments saying it was a D minus, an F. Why we both agreed on a C is we were both, I'm repeating myself, but we agreed that there was really 2 throws that I had a problem with in this game, right? It was the miss to Van Jefferson on 3rd and 16. He's got to make it. Regardless of the situation, the play was there to be made, and he's got to make it. And then it was the what was the other throw? The dropped interception, which he threw right at Denzel Perryman, and Denzel Perryman had it right in the bread basket, and he dropped. I had comments saying at the end of the second half, there was like a play where J.C. Latham recovers a fumble/interception. Like, look, I'm so lenient on a end of half Hail Mary attempt where protection kind of breaks down. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care about those things. What did I expect him? Like, yeah, you want him to hold on to the football, sure, but I'm not lenient if that happens on the first play of the 3rd quarter. I'm tearing him for that, But it's like, I don't really care what happens on 3rd and 10 with 1 second left from the 30-yard line, and you're throwing up a prayer, and it ends up being a negative play. Like, whatever. I don't know what you expect in that situation. So for me, I don't let that play affect my grade. The missed throw to Van Jefferson, absolutely. The Denzel Perryman should have been an interception, absolutely. Negative plays. But for me, I thought there was more good than bad in this game, with the realization that they only scored 6 points on offense, didn't do enough. So I drag it back down to a C, even though I thought, he did some okay things out there.
Yeah, and I want to talk about just like the idea of quarterback production in general, because I've said on this show that, like, ultimately, if you are the guy it doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You're going to produce a baseline level of stats that you feel good about. You're not going to just be terrible statistically solely because the environment around you and the players around you aren't that good. Like, you're going to lift those people up. And, it's a lot to ask your rookie quarterback in his 9th game ever to be the guy that's coming out and elevating the rest of the offense. But you want an example of Cam Ward doing that in this game where the offense only scores 6 points. In the second quarter, the Titans get the ball back with 8:37 to go in the second quarter and put together a 5-play, 29-yard field goal drive. I'm just going to go through the plays on that drive, okay? They start with Cam Ward drops back to pass, is under immediate pressure from an unblocked defender, evades that defender initially in the pocket, and then as that defender is taking him to the ground for a would-be sack, Cam Ward is able to get the ball to Tajay Spears, his check down, who has nothing but green grass in front of him. Tajay Spears makes a couple guys in the open field miss and picks up 26 yards on 1st and 10. Your quarterback takes what should have been a sack based on what your offensive line did on that play and turns it into a 26-yard pickup, puts you automatically in field goal range right off the bat. That is elevating your offense right there. That is an example of it. You want to know what happened for the rest of this drive, Justin? A 5-yard false start penalty on Dan Moore on the next play, followed by a 1st and 15 2-yard run by Tajay Spears, followed by a 2nd and 13 swing/screen pass out to Tony Pollard in the flat, who has to break about 5 tackles just to pick up 1 yard on the play. The play was so poorly executed, he swarmed as soon as he catches the ball, barely able to pick up 1 yard. Peter Skoronski's flagged for a hold on top of all of that, although we don't agree with the call on that play. The point is the execution was extremely poor, all to gain 1 yard when they actually moved back 10 yards. Now it's 2nd and 23 at the 47-yard line. You're not even in field goal range anymore. What does Cam Ward do on the next play? He scrambles 6 yards forward to get you back into Joey Sly's field goal range, about a 57, 58-yard field goal range. And on the next play, it's 3rd and 17. They call a draw to Tajay Spears. So Cam Ward drops back to pass 3 times in this drive. On one of them, he makes an amazing play for a 26-yard gain. On one of them, he is designed to throw it to Tony Pollard in the flat. It gets completely blown up. And on the other one, he scrambles for a 6-yard gain because nobody's open and he's under quick pressure and gets your team back in field goal range. What more do you want from your quarterback than to complete a 26-yard game and then execute the offense for the other 2 plays, and get you in field goal range? That play, Cam Ward to Tajay Spears, was literally by itself worth 3 points. Cam Ward's not throwing on 3rd and 17. They're running a draw. Cam Ward, on numerous 3rd downs in this game, did not have the chance to drop back and throw to try to get his team a 1st down because they kept running the ball or going to the Wildcat. If he doesn't have the opportunity to make a play, he's not going to be able to make a play.
And they're the worst 3rd down offense in football because they're constantly in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, right? Like their literal average is like 3rd and 11 on 3rd down.
Yeah, on this 3rd and 17 where they call a give-up run, going into that play, they had been averaging 12 yards to go on 3rd down on their first 3 3rd downs. This is their 4th 3rd down, and it's 3rd and 17. Like, what the hell?
Every week. That drive is a great example of how broken this offense is. And the head coach was broken. The play calling, I meant Brian Callahan. The play calling is broken. The new play caller, the system, the structure, the interim head coach, everything about them on offense is so broken, so dysfunctional. Are you surprised to hear they got a penalty, whether it's a hold or how many times have we heard that stupid illegal shift, illegal motion, whatever? Like, they're just so constantly shoot themselves in the foot. It's not always Cam Ward. It's rarely Cam Ward. It's more often what's around him, both from a personnel and coaching staff perspective. They're just so broken right now that it's made it very hard to appropriately assess him without overreacting, without saying he's a bust, without saying blah, blah, blah. You've got to see beyond the results.
And I'm going to make one last point on all this, and that is when you look at the production, which this was this broke his streak of games with over 220 passing yards, with games with a passing touchdown. He didn't turn the ball over, although he had a dropped interception. He didn't turn the ball over, which is great. But I think ultimately, yards are sort of a quarterback offense stat. Now, obviously, Arch Manning throws a 75-yard touchdown on the first play of the Texas Vanderbilt game over the weekend. It's a screen, and the receiver runs it 75 yards. So not all yards are on the quarterback. But a lot of times, yards, I feel, are more quarterback execution-based and the full offense, while touchdown production is largely based on your offense, your play calling, and your playmakers. You guys see the Bears-Bengals game over the weekend? You see the Colston Loveland game-winning touchdown that Caleb Williams threw? Caleb Williams throws a nice ball. It's almost the exact same ball that Cam Ward threw to Alec Iamander 2 weeks ago, right before the half against Indianapolis, when they missed a field goal. And did they miss a field goal? I don't remember anymore. That game
did miss the field goal.
Okay, thanks. And Caleb Williams throws that pass. Colston Loveland bounces off tacklers like he's I don't know what, He-Man running down the middle of the field and takes that all the way to the end zone. Name a player on the Titans offense that's going to make that play for Cam Ward and turn that pass, which was a good pass. I'm not taking away from the pass, but turn what was a good pass into a 60-plus yard touchdown. Which player on the Titans can do that? Cam Ward's touchdowns come from long balls like the one to Chimere Dike. And Chimere Dike can be a playmaker, obviously, but he's not that kind of, he's not bouncing off tacklers and turning a 20-yard catch into a 60-yard touchdown. Okay? Cam Ward's passing touchdowns it's a deep shot, like the one to DK, or it's in the red zone. And the Titans have to get to the red zone, and then they have to let Cam Ward throw in the red zone if you want his touchdown production to go up. Because the simple fact is, maybe Tajay Spears can take a screen 30 yards and house it, right? He hasn't done that yet this year. He did have a 30-yard fourth down run. That doesn't help Cam Ward's numbers. So Cam Ward's touchdown production is hamstrung by the offense he's playing in and the playmakers around him. I'm going to point to another stat for you. Bryce Young and J.J. McCarthy over the weekend combined for 245 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on 25 of 45. That's not a good completion percentage. It's barely over 50%. They both won. They both got wins. Bryce Young threw 103 yards in a win. This is a team sport, okay? J.J. McCarthy made the right plays at the right time. He made some good plays with his legs. He made some good plays out of structure, but ultimately threw for like 140-something yards, right? 142 yards, I think. 143 maybe. Last thing I'm going to point to, and then we have to leave because I have a call in 2 minutes. Sorry, guys. Joe Flacco, pre-Cincinnati in Cleveland this year, averaged 206 passing yards per game, threw 4 touchdowns in 5 games. In 3 games in Cincinnati, he's averaging 345 passing yards a game. He's thrown 9 touchdowns in 3 games. The environment around you matters so much.
And that's to a 42-year-old quarterback who's been around and seen everything, and it still matters. Why wouldn't you expect it to matter to a first-year rookie quarterback?
Exactly. So, thank you guys for tuning in. The ultimate answer to the question posed in this episode: the Titans did not make a mistake drafting Cam Ward. They made a mistake not firing Brian Callahan in January. That was a huge mistake. And I wasn't necessarily against that decision at the time. In hindsight, terrible decision. They have to nail this hire, and they have to surround Cam Ward with more playmakers if we want to see the results that we want to see going forward. All right, tomorrow, Justin, we are going to talk about whether or not we should be rooting for the Titans to lose. Benefits of winning versus losing. Draft position. Is it even more beneficial now that the Jets have all this ammo that they need to lose games, or does it not matter as much because they can't out-tank these tankers? We'll talk about all that tomorrow. Next week, over the bye, I'm going to get into more Marcus Harris, Kevin Winston review. Finally got a chance to really watch them closely, and I got to be honest, I like what I see from Marcus Harris, so we're going to talk about that next week. But y'all tune in tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning into this one. Thanks to Sinkers Beverages for sponsoring the channel. Shout out to all of you guys. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, drop a comment below. Are we defending Cam Ward too much? I'm sure you'll let us know, even if I don't agree with your guys' opinion there. So until tomorrow, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.